Well, not too long ago, our liberal politicians and the media saying that Iraq was lost and it was time to go hang our head in shame. Then just yesterday, a weird thing happened. U.S. military transferred control of Anbar province directly to the Iraqi security forces. That's weird. How's that happen? Sounds like things are just getting started in Iraq. More in tonight's Real Story. But first, Governor Palin is so unknown that she is like a blank canvas where people can paint whatever picture they want of her. Of course, you know, how that painting eventually looks in 2 months from now will really be what's ultimately important. But for now, the canvas still holds limitless possibilities. So let's start filling it in, going beyond but what you read in the blogs or in the papers, and try to figure out what this woman really stands for, and most importantly, what kind of president she would make if she ever had to become the president of the United States. Ann Coulter is a syndicated columnist and the author of If Democrats Had Any Brains, They'd Be Republicans. And Stephen Moore is an economic editorial writer for the Wall Street Journal. Let me start with you, Stephen, first of all. She seems diametrically opposed to herself in some ways. She is for drilling for more oil, et cetera, et cetera. She seems like a friend on energy, but then she just instituted this windfall profits tax. What's that all about?
It's one of the few things on her record, Glenn, that I don't like. She did increase the taxes on the oil companies a couple of years ago when the oil price started to go up. Now, her justification of that is that there was so much widespread corruption in the Alaska legislature before she took over that the oil companies had negotiated a corrupt deal. It's interesting because if you look at the result of that windfall profits tax, it actually reduced development in Alaska. It's something maybe the federal politicians may want to pay attention to. When you raise the taxes on oil companies, they do less drilling, not more.
And it's funny to me that Chicago is a dirty place to do politics.
Hey, I'm from Chicago, Glenn. Watch what you say.
See what I'm saying? And Alaska is a dirty place to do politics. But there is one place, Ann, one politician who actually ratted not on the opposing party, but on her own party and is a reformer. Why is that message seem to be getting lost right now?
Because they're too busy fixating on her 17-year-old daughter. And there was major coverage of the hurricane yesterday. Of course, it was coverage of Hurricane Katrina. But yeah, it's very impressive what she's done, and it's also very interesting how it brings up something that hasn't been talked about at all, what you say, the massive corruption in Chicago, of which Obama was a part of. Not to say that he necessarily did anything corrupt, but he's in with, Syrian national Tony Rezko, who bought the property next to him. I mean, there is a lot of corruption in that town, and it hasn't been investigated particularly at all. A little bit by the Chicago Sun-Times in the Saturday edition, but that's it.
Okay. But Glenn, the real story here so far, it's only been 3 or 4 days since she was announced as the Republican nominee. I mean, the left's assault and attack and concerted effort to try to discredit this woman, I've never seen anything like it in all of politics. It is unbelievable. They cannot stand the idea, Ann, of a conservative who was a female and a leader.
You know why? Ann, I think, tell me where you think I'm wrong. I think Stephen is right because it's not that they can't stand a conservative woman, but a conservative woman will make the point, especially one who's a soccer mom and you're liking her and everything else. I mean, here's why she's so dangerous to the left. I noticed today was the first day that my audience on radio had a chance to call me and talk to me about who she is and what they've learned about her over the past. Every single caller who called in to talk about her addressed her as Sarah. None of them called her the governor. They all said, you know what I like about Sarah? She's real.
Right.
I think that makes her more dangerous.
And just for the record, I agree with all of my Republican co-genderists. I don't care that she's a woman.
I don't either.
I like her because she's a right-winger, but I must say I do like the fact that we finally have, a prominent woman running for a presidential or vice president or associated with a presidential ticket who's the pro-lifer. I mean, all these Republican presidential candidates always think they can split the baby by them being pro-life and then telling us, oh, but their wives are pro-choice, which creates a totally false image. More women are against abortion than men, especially single men between the ages of 18 and 35. Yeah. So, we're finally getting the true face of conservatism in Sarah Palin.
And there's another part of this, Glenn, too, which is that there's this kind of elitism. A lot of these people in Washington, what I call the Beltway boys, they don't know anything about this woman. I was reading one analysis of her that said, how could she be president? She's never been on Meet the Press. I mean, what kind of credential is that?
It's amazing. There were a lot of journalists that were really pissed that I was the only journalist, or not journalist, commentator, that had any tape of her on record asking her, what about the vice president? They didn't see this coming, and I have a theory. Obama yesterday started spending an awful lot of time talking about her as a mayor of this little town and trying to dismiss her. You know what? If Chicago weren't in Illinois, they'd dismiss Illinois.
That's true.
The people will like her because she is from a small town.
That's right.
And the media doesn't understand her because she is from a small town.
And the left views all those states as flyover country. They really do. It's the bi-coastal elitism.
Alaska.
So, Ann, are you...
not Alaska, Steve.
Are you going to vote for John McCain? Does this make you enthusiastic?
Oh, yeah, and I especially like liberals dissing her by saying, one heartbeat away. That makes me more likely to vote for McCain.
All right, thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Coming up, violent protests at the Republican National Convention led to arrests this weekend. Penn Jillette joins me to find the line between democracy and all-out anarchy. And Hurricane Gustav slams into the Gulf Coast, including the densest population of offshore rigs on the planet. As of now, the total amount of oil reported lost to the storm is 0. So what's the argument against offshore drilling again? Tonight's Real Story coming up.